My name is Claire, and at 32, I've come to understand that family doesn't always mean loyalty. Sometimes, the most fitting retribution is letting people face the fallout of their own choices. It all began at what was meant to be a joyful gathering. My younger sister, Maris, age 29, had just bought her first house with her husband, Henry, and they were throwing a housewarming party. Maris had always been the favored child, marrying early, having 2 kids by 25, and convincing our parents she was flawless despite her string of poor financial decisions. E, however, was the family's letdown. Never mind that I had a thriving career as a financial advisor, owned my own home, and had worked hard to buy a beautiful vacation cabin. They didn't care that I was happy with my dog, Finn, or that I was self-sufficient. I arrived at the party with a fine bottle of wine and a generous gift card for Maris's new home, expecting a warm evening. The celebration was in full swing when I got there, with about 30 guests, including family, friends, and neighbors. Maris greeted me warmly, wrapping me in a hug and thanking me for coming. For a moment, I thought our relationship was on the mend. I should have known better. About an hour into the event, Maris clinked her glass to get everyone's attention. "Thank you all for being here tonight," she said, her voice dripping with a practiced charm I'd come to recognize. "Henry and I are so grateful for your support as we begin this new chapter." Then her tone shifted. "There's something else I'd like to address while we're all gathered." She looked straight at me, and my heart sank. "Claire, can you come up here for a second?" The crowd parted as I walked toward her, my parents standing on either side of her, their expressions signaling trouble. The room grew quiet as all eyes turned to us. "Claire," Maris began, her voice loud enough for everyone to hear, "you know how tough things have been for Henry and me, with the kids and the new mortgage." I nodded cautiously, unsure where this was headed but feeling uneasy. "We've been talking as a family," she continued, glancing at our parents, "and we think it would be really kind of you to let us use your vacation cabin. You hardly go there, and it would mean so much for the kids to make memories." Her words sounded like a decision already made, as if I'd agreed. But I hadn't. This was the first I'd heard of it. "Maris, I started, but Mom cut in, stepping forward with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We think you should just give it to Maris and Henry," she said. "It's the right thing for the family." The room was silent. I felt the weight of 30 stares, my face burning with embarrassment and anger. "You want me to give away my cabin?" I asked, incredulous. "It's not like you're using it properly," Dad said, his tone carrying the commanding weight he'd always used to dismiss me. "Vacation homes are for families. You just go there alone with that dog." "That dog has a name," I snapped, my voice rising. "And I go there to unwind. It's my property and I earned it." Maris let out a sharp laugh. "Come on, Claire, don't be so selfish. Think about my kids, your niece and nephew. They deserve those experiences." "They can have experiences at any of the countless other vacation rentals out there," I said, struggling to keep my composure. "I'm not giving away my property." Mom's facade cracked. "You don't even have kids!" she shouted, loud enough for the whole house to hear. "What do you need a family cabin for? Just keep wandering around with your dog and stop being so greedy." Her words cut deep. They knew I'd been grappling with infertility for years, yet they threw it in my face. Dad stepped closer, his face red with anger. "Your sister has kids. Real responsibilities," he said. "You're just a barren failure, hogging resources that could help actual family members." The word barren hit like a punch. I'd heard Dad's cruel remarks before, but never so publicly. The guests shifted uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. Maris smirked, clearly enjoying the moment. "About time the family letdown stepped up," she said with a sneer. "Maybe this'll finally make you worth something." I stood there, trembling with fury and humiliation as my family tore me apart in front of everyone. Some guests looked away, embarrassed, while others watched with morbid curiosity. "No one defended me. I said no," I managed through gritted teeth. That's when Dad lost it. His hand swung up, striking my cheek with a sharp backhand that sent me stumbling. The sound echoed in the silent room, and then, to my horror, applause broke out. Not from everyone. Some looked shocked, but enough to fill the space with sound. Maris beamed like she'd won a prize. Mom nodded approvingly. Dad adjusted his shirt as if he'd done something noble. I touched my stinging cheek, staring at the people who were supposed to love me. The betrayal hurt more than the slap. "Fine," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I'll remember this." I walked out, leaving behind the gift I'd brought and any hope I had for my family's loyalty. The drive home was a blur. Finn greeted me with his usual joy, and I sank into his fur, letting the tears come. My cheek throbbed, my heart ached, and I felt utterly alone. But as the shock faded, a cold resolve took its place. I'd always been the responsible one. While Maris stumbled through financial messes, I'd quietly supported her. I co-signed her first car loan when her credit was shot. I lent her money for emergencies countless times. I even helped with the down payment on her new house, though she swore me to secrecy. Most crucially, I'd been managing our parents' finances for 5 years. Ever since Dad asked me to step in when Mom's memory started slipping, I'd organized their accounts, handled their taxes, and ensured their bills were paid. Mom's condition had worsened, but she still had lucid days and appreciated my help. They trusted me completely with their money. Maris had no clue. As a financial advisor, I know money is power, and power can be revoked as easily as it's given. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and started making calls. The first was to the bank holding Maris's mortgage, which I'd co-signed and partially funded. I told the loan officer that, due to recent family conflicts involving coercion and abuse, I was worried about my role as co-signer and wanted to explore my options. "I understand, Ms. Thompson," the officer said. "You can't just remove yourself as co-signer, but you can request a reassessment of the loan based on changed circumstances. We'd need to evaluate whether the primary borrowers qualify on their own." "And if they don't?" I asked. "We'd explore modification options, but if no agreement is reached, the loan could be called in." Perfect. The second call was to step down as my parents' power of attorney. I'd meticulously documented their finances over the years, and what I found was alarming. Dad had been secretly funneling money to Maris from Mom's care fund, over $30,000 in unpaid loans. Worse, he'd opened credit accounts in Mom's name without her consent, exploiting her cognitive decline. I gathered every detail, screenshots, bank statements, emails, all legally obtained as their financial agent, before resigning. The third call was to Adult Protective Services. "I'd like to report potential financial elder abuse," I told the intake worker. "I have evidence of someone siphoning funds from an elderly woman with cognitive issues, including opening credit accounts in her name. I sent them everything, records of unauthorized transfers, proof of the credit accounts, and documentation of Mom's vulnerability." "This is serious," the worker said. "We'll launch an investigation immediately and freeze the accounts to prevent further misuse." The fourth call was to Maris's employer, a small family business where she worked as a bookkeeper. Her boss, Ms. Benton, valued financial integrity. A quick check of public records showed Maris had hidden multiple debt judgments, which could affect her bonding insurance. I didn't accuse her. I simply asked Ms. Benton if she knew about these judgments, given their relevance to Maris's role. The fifth call was to the IRS. Dad's loans to Maris, totaling over $30,000 and never repaid, were considered taxable income under IRS rules. If Maris hadn't reported them, it was tax evasion. I provided every transaction, gift, and loan exceeding the annual limit, all documented legally through my role as Mom and Dad's financial agent. The sixth call was to Child Protective Services. I'd never fabricate claims about child welfare, but Maris's public social media posts were concerning enough. She'd shared photos of her kids in unsafe situations, boasted about leaving them alone to go out, and mentioned using medication to make them sleep for adult time. I compiled the screenshots and requested a wellness check, citing genuine concern for the children. The final call was to Henry's employer, a construction company with strict policies on domestic violence. I didn't accuse Henry directly. I provided photos of my bruised face from Dad's slap, along with statements from party guests who were appalled by the incident, and let the company decide if Henry's family environment aligned with their standards. Then I waited. The fallout came quickly. 3 days later, Maris called, hysterical. "What did you do?" she shrieked. "The bank's calling our loan. They want the full balance in 30 days, or they'll foreclose." I withdrew as co-signer. I said calmly, "It's my legal right. You can't do this. We'll lose the house." "You should have thought of that before you humiliated me and demanded my property." "Claire, please," she said, her tone shifting to fake sincerity. "I'm sorry about the party. Things got out of hand. But you can't punish my kids." "Your kids?" I said. "The ones you wanted to make memories with? Maybe they should ask their grandfather where their grandmother's care money went." The line went quiet. "What are you talking about?" Maris asked, her voice shaky. "Adult Protective Services is very interested in Dad's financial dealings," I said. "Stealing from someone with dementia is a serious crime." The next day, Dad called. "Claire, we need to talk," he said, trying to sound authoritative but barely hiding his panic. "People are asking questions about Mom's accounts." "I'm sure they are," I replied. "I handed over all the financial records to the authorities." "You had no right." "I had every right. You gave me power of attorney, remember? That means I'm legally required to protect Mom's interests." "Those were family loans," he snapped. "They were theft from a vulnerable adult," I countered. "The police were very interested in the credit cards you opened in Mom's name without her consent." The silence was deafening. "What do you want?" he finally asked. I want you to face the consequences of your actions, I said. Just like you made me do at that party. The third domino was the most satisfying. Maris lost her job after Ms. Benton discovered not only the hidden debt judgments, but also some creative bookkeeping Maris had used to cover personal expenses. Borrowing from petty cash, even with intent to repay, is still theft. The fourth domino fell when the IRS audit revealed Maris hadn't reported over $40,000 in forgiven loans and gifts over 3 years. The penalties and back taxes were steep, and wage garnishment hit immediately. The fifth domino was CPS's wellness check, which found enough issues to mandate parenting classes and regular visits. Nothing endangered the kids outright, but it added significant stress for Maris and Henry. Henry lost his job when his employer deemed his connection to domestic violence a liability risk. But the real bombshell came 2 weeks later, from my cousin Nina, Maris's childhood friend. Nina had been at the party but hadn't clapped. She'd been horrified. "Claire, I need to tell you something," Nina said, her voice trembling. "I should have said this sooner, but I was scared. What happened at the party wasn't spontaneous." My stomach churned. "What do you mean?" "They planned it," she said. "I overheard Maris, your mom, and dad talking before the party. Maris said she'd been working on getting your cabin for months. She called you too selfish to give it up willingly, so they had to pressure you publicly to make you cave." The betrayal cut deeper than I'd imagined. They'd orchestrated the entire scene to exploit my perceived weakness. "There's more," Nina said. "Maris bragged after you left about how she'd been softening you up with sob stories about money troubles. She said she'd documented every time you helped her financially to prove you always give in when family needs help." "For what?" I asked. "She was going to sue you if the public shaming didn't work. She thought she could convince a judge to force you to hand over the cabin as part of a family support agreement." The audacity was staggering. Maris had been building a legal case to take my property, using my kindness against me. "Why tell me now?" I asked. "Because Maris called me yesterday," Nina said. "She's desperate, Claire. She's talking about suing you for ruining her family. She thinks you're acting out of spite, not because she and your parents broke the law. She's been asking about your job, income, and where you spend your time, trying to get mutual friends to take her side and paint you as a monster who's hurting her kids." That was pure Maris, playing the victim while dodging accountability, but now I had a heads up, and I intended to use it. "Nina, I need a favor," I said. "If Maris contacts you again, record the conversation. Can you do that?" "I think so. But why?" "Because Maris is about to learn I'm better at this than she ever imagined." After hanging up, I dove deeper into Maris's social media. What I found was damning. While she'd been crying poor to me and our parents, she was posting about fancy dinners, new clothes, and weekend trips, posted during the same time she'd begged me for emergency loans. She'd been lying about her finances to milk sympathy and cash. Worse, she'd posted about outsmarting the system and mocked people like me for being too soft to stop helping her. I saved every post, text, screenshot, and comment, building a detailed file. Then I did something unthinkable 6 months earlier. I launched my own social media campaign. I shared a detailed account of the party, including photos of my bruised face and statements from guests who were appalled by Dad's actions. Didn't exaggerate. The truth was enough. I also included Maris's own posts, showing her lavish lifestyle while claiming poverty, and her mocking comments about exploiting others. Her own words painted her as the manipulator she was. The post exploded in our social circles. Dozens of people shared similar stories of Maris's deceit, unpaid debts, and manipulation. Party guests admitted they felt uneasy, but didn't know how to intervene. Neighbors and Henry's former colleagues chimed in, revealing Maris's pattern of borrowing money with fake stories about medical or car issues. She owed money all over town. The campaign also served a strategic purpose. It created a public record of Maris's behavior, making any lawsuit she filed nearly impossible to win. 3 days later, Maris showed up at my workplace, pacing in the lobby and yelling at my assistant. I was in a client meeting when my assistant interrupted. "Ms. Thompson, there's a woman here claiming to be your sister. She's upset." Through the glass wall, I saw Maris, looking disheveled and frantic. "Reschedule my 3 p.m., I told my client. "Family emergency." Maris started shouting the moment I entered the lobby. "How dare you post that trash about me online? You're ruining my life." "Your life ruined itself," I said calmly, aware of my colleagues watching. "I just shared the truth." "You posted private conversations. That's illegal." "I posted things you shared publicly on your own social media," I corrected. "Nothing was private." Maris's face was red with rage. "You're spiteful, and everyone sees it now. No one believes you're the victim." "The comments on my post say otherwise," I replied. "A lot of people have shared their own stories about you." "You turned everyone against me." "I didn't have to," I said. "Your actions did that." That's when she made a mistake. Maris pulled out her phone and started recording, hoping to catch me saying something incriminating. "Say that again," she demanded, holding up the phone. "Tell everyone how you ruined an innocent family because you're a bitter, childless woman who hates seeing others happy." I smiled at her camera. "I stopped enabling financial abuse and reported illegal activity to the authorities. If you want to record this, let's get the facts straight." I pulled out my own phone and started recording. "Maris, are you denying you and our parents planned to publicly shame me into giving you my cabin? That's not. Are you denying Dad stole from Mom's care fund to give you money? He was helping family. Are you denying you lied about your finances while borrowing money from multiple people? Everyone struggles. Are you denying you clapped when Dad hit me?" Maris paled. She'd started recording to trap me, but instead gave me evidence of her guilt. "You can't prove any of that," she stammered. "I can," I said, still recording. "I have bank records, social media posts, witness statements, and now this conversation where you didn't deny anything." Maris realized her mistake and lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. "Don't touch me," I said loudly. "You were part of one assault. I won't let you try another." Security arrived, called by my assistant. As they escorted Maris out, she yelled, "This isn't over, Claire. I'll make sure everyone knows who you really are." "They already do," I called back. "That's your problem." Security footage of the confrontation leaked online, showing Maris's aggression and failure to deny my accusations. It solidified her as the aggressor. Friends distanced themselves, and even neutral family members took my side. Henry's parents, who'd taken them in, began questioning his choice in a partner. A week later, my lawyer called. "Claire, your sister's attorney sent a demand letter. They're threatening to sue for defamation, emotional distress, and interference with family relationships." I almost laughed. "She's suing me for telling the truth? It's a weak case," he said. "Everything you've shared is factual or based on your documented experiences. Truth is a complete defense against defamation. The emotional distress claim won't hold up since they orchestrated a public attack on you. And interference with family relationships isn't a valid claim here. They're trying to scare you into settling." "They picked the wrong person," I said. "File a countersuit." Within 6 weeks, the consequences hit hard. Maris and Henry faced foreclosure, bankruptcy, tax liens, job losses, and CPS oversight. Dad was under investigation for elder abuse and fraud, with charges looming. Mom was safe in a care facility, her finances protected, though she was heartbroken by Dad's betrayal. I was at my cabin with Finn, sipping wine and watching the sunset. I'd started spending time with Luke, a kind man from my hiking group who admired my strength. Maris, Dad, and even relatives who'd watched my humiliation tried to reach out, pleading for family unity and forgiveness. I blocked them all. I only kept in touch with Mom, visiting her regularly. On her good days, she was grateful I'd protected her from Dad's abuse, though it pained her. "I always knew you were the strong one," she said once. "I just wish I'd seen what was happening sooner." 3 months after the party, Maris showed up at my house, looking gaunt and exhausted, driving a beat-up car, likely all they could afford after repossessions. "Claire, please," she said softly. "We need to talk." "I have nothing to say," I replied, starting to close the door. "Wait," she said, pressing her hand against it. "I know you're angry, but my kids, they don't deserve this. They could end up homeless." "Your kids are innocent," I agreed. "That's why CPS is ensuring they're safe with parents who can provide for them." "The parenting classes are humiliating," she said, tears falling. "Henry can't find work because of his record. We're losing everything." "You lost everything," I corrected. "The moment you chose to attack me in front of 30 people for not giving you my property." "It was just words, Claire," she said. "People say things when they're stressed." "Dad hit me," I said sharply. "And you clapped." "You stood there cheering while he assaulted me because I wouldn't give you something I earned." Maris looked at her feet. "I know that was wrong." "No," I said firmly. "You don't get to brush this off. You planned to humiliate me. You called me a disappointment. You agreed when Dad called me a barren failure. You clapped when he hit me. And now you want my help because the consequences are hard? What can I do to fix this?" she begged. "Nothing," I said after a long pause. "You can't undo your words, the humiliation or the assault. You can't deny you showed me who you really are." "But we're family," she pleaded. "Family doesn't treat each other the way you treated me," I said. "Family doesn't gang up, assault, or cheer when someone's hurt." "Claire, I'm begging you." "Are you begging now?" I asked. "Where was that humility when you demanded my cabin? Where was your concern for family when you mocked me in front of everyone?" Maris sobbed on my doorstep. Part of me felt a pang for the sister I once knew, before she became entitled and cruel. But most of me remembered standing in that room, hand on my burning cheek, as people applauded my pain. "I'm sorry," she whispered through tears. "I'm sure you are. I said. You're sorry you're facing consequences. You're sorry your plan failed. You're sorry you're losing your house and lifestyle. But are you sorry for how you treated me? For exploiting my kindness? For cheering when Dad called me a barren failure? She looked up and her eyes told me the truth. She was sorry, but only because she was losing.